Welcome in to the Saturday edition of Last Call. I am Kelly Stewart. Today, we have a very fun lineup. But first, no Art DiCesare. He is still on the IR, so we're going to wish him very well. He is back to work at the Westgate Superbook, but not well enough to, use his voice. But he did send us an entirely long list. We also got Gianni the Greek coming up. Kyle Anthony for UFC 311. Andrew McInnis has been red hot in the NFL, so we invited him back. And Bryan Power's been crushing it on the hardwood, so he's going to take all of your college basketball questions. Remember, that's how this show goes. Your participation is mandatory. Because I would much rather not have to get up and do my hair and makeup on a beautiful Saturday morning and like to sit on the couch and eat breakfast like the rest of you. But I am here for you, bringing you guys all the late breaking information up until tip-off or kickoff or whatever it may be. So I'm going to grab you guys some needs, the college basketball slate. Actually, let's wait. Let's wait till we get some more people in here, and then I'll share them with VR. VR, let's bring you in. We were talking a little crypto talk this morning before we went on air. And I bought the Trump coin. Yeah, I bought some XRP a while ago. I bought back in. I got my parents even. I was shocked. My dad even goes, yeah, buy me 6 dimes. I lost it. I did not. My dad has never invested $6,000 in anything in his life that's not a boat or a truck. And I thought, all right, let's go to the moon. Touch on some crypto stuff because it's no different. These crypto markets are no different than the sports betting markets, no different than the stock markets. It's all similar stuff, and being able to analyze markets is what you do best.
Honestly, once I saw that the Trump coin was launched and the inauguration is Monday, you knew people were going to FOMO in. And more importantly, it happened late last night. So a lot of people were even sleeping on the East Coast. So I actually took a shot. I threw a little money in. I saw it was the way it was moving up, had a couple dips. I'm like, oh my God, this thing's consolidating. This is going to just keep going up. So I bought a little more. Obviously, you always wake up and regret the next day that you didn't buy more when things go your way, kind of like a football game. You're like, I knew I had the right side. Why didn't I bet more? But it's because you trusted your gut and there's always risk involved. The truth is, right now is the prime golden age for crypto because we got the right man in office for that. Because Trump's so pro-crypto, he just got rid of Gary Gensler at the SEC. He now is going to appoint somebody who's pro-crypto. He just appointed his crypto czar last night at a crypto ball. His sons are behind crypto. His youngest son keeps pushing crypto. So obviously that will continue to climb. But like everything else, nothing goes up in a straight line. So I always urge every investor, take profits. Nobody ever went broke taking a profit. Even if it still goes up, maybe let some ride, but always take some profit because I fell victim to that back in 2019, 2020, 2021, where I just thought, okay, it's just going to keep going up. And obviously Bitcoin went from 69,000 down to 16,000 within months. And at that point, it's a panic. What do you do? Is it going to zero like everybody's saying? You don't ever want to be in that position. So now, slowly, as I make some money, I pull out some profits, let some more ride, pull out some profits, let some more ride. Because again, there's nothing worse than making the right call and then being the one at the end holding the bag. And anyone in the Trump coin right now, I can tell you this, I know with certainty, 80% of the coins are held in one wallet. One single wallet has 80% of the coins. When that wallet decides to dump, and it hasn't come out like Bitcoin and said it's not ever going to sell that wallet, when it comes out and dumps, you don't want to be the one holding the bag. The rug pull will come like it does with all these meme coins. So be cautious. If you made some profits, God bless you. Take that money, put it into something maybe a little bit safer. Or if you got some gambling, let it ride. Mine's still in there. I'll be honest with you. I'm still letting it ride because I didn't go crazy with my investment, but it's just a lot of fun watching it. Ethereum, also real quickly, Ethereum's the only crypto that's lagging right now. They're the only one that hasn't re-hit its all-time high. Bitcoin has, Solana has, they all have, SWI has. And it's because there's cheaper coins out there like Solana, like SWI, that does what Ethereum does faster and cheaper. But Ethereum just has so much behind it, so many applications, and they're getting in the first quarter of this year, they're getting their next upgrade. So if there's ever been a discount on a crypto, that's the one. Look over the last 365 days. It's the only big market cap crypto that hasn't done damage. And we know market, everything goes together eventually. They're all correlated. So take a look at Ethereum, not giving out any financial advice at all. I throw darts like the rest of us. Luckily, last night's dart hit a bullseye.
I love that. Yeah, I woke up very FOMO'd going, how did I miss this? Hello. It's all we talk about in our group chat every single day is XRP and Ethereum and Bitcoin, and nobody said we should buy this coin right around Inauguration Day. All right, let's get into some NFL. We have a pair of games today. It looks like first half bets, David Fink wants to know. David, I've got one. John Murray gave out Chiefs first half -4.5 earlier in the week on the Kelly and Murray show. Art DiCesare just said that is another sharp bet that they saw even at -5. VR, have you seen anything else for the first half of the two games today?
Yeah, I did see the KC get hit at 4.5 and 5 in the first half. That's why it's sitting at that 6 right now. I saw Washington also, but that got bet at 10. And that's why, even though the money line parlay and the teaser of the favorites is getting so much action, the fact that they did get resistance from betting groups at 10, the books know if worst comes to worst and Kansas City wins that first game and covers that first game, they know they could limit some of the risk by jacking up that price on Detroit. So if you like the dog, the Washington side, I think you could wait. I don't think it's going to go much lower because of all the risk that's coming in on that teaser and on those money line parlays. There's more money line parlays with Kansas City, Detroit, tied into Ohio State, maybe tied into the Eagles, maybe tied into some MMA for tonight, maybe. But rest assured, I'm seeing more KC Detroit parlays and teasers, Kel, than I expected. And they don't mind, because they don't mind doing 7-point teasers. You know, recreational bettors don't mind doing the 7-point teasers, 6.5, whatever's going to get them to where they're thinking they're wonging, they're fine doing it. So it's going to be interesting to see if either one of these, the books are cheering for a money line win, Houston or Washington to get the W. But it's always like that in the playoffs, especially in the divisional round, where the wild card team goes in and plays the rested team. They're always the bigger favorite. So it'll be interesting to see if you see any more wise guy action. But so far, it's been exactly like you said, Kansas City money, Detroit money, parlays, and teasers. And sharps, obviously, they're going to go opposite that. They go under and they take the dogs.
Perfect. Let's get into some college basketball. Here is the list that I got from Art over at the Westgate Superbook. Okay. Needs as followed: UConn, Central Florida, Fairfield, Ball State, and Wake Forest are the biggest needs over at the Westgate Superbook. That is UConn, Central Florida, Fairfield, Ball State, and Wake Forest. VR, do you have anything that can confirm that you saw something similar from groups in regards to those 5 games?
Absolutely. The surprisingly, the Connecticut side, not surprisingly, because it's sharp money on Creighton. They came in, took the Creighton money, plus money at 8.5. That's why you're looking at 7.5 now across the board. That's the thing that I love to differentiate is the need because of it's sharp, or is the need because it's square. When you look at a Connecticut Creighton, that's one of those needs, I think, because the sharp money came in on the Creighton side. A couple other ones that I saw getting action was UTEP, 635, UTEP, 638, North Dakota, 700, Kent, added board, 306, 616, Jacksonville, -13, -13.5, -14, and then NJ, the technical NJIT at -2. Those are some of the more smaller market moves that the groups I work with have hit. But seeing these sides on Arts, which I wrote down as well, I think the majority of that is sharp money related, not square money. I think as the morning goes on, we'll see some of those more high profile games add risk to the books because it's more public money. But I think it's seeing these sides, it's mostly sharp money opposite leaving the book. Like you saw Toledo get bet at +2. That's why Ball State's down the -1. But when you see schools like that, when the book has a need of Ball State, a need of Fairfield, a need of even Central Florida, you can pretty much conclude that the need is because the sharp bettors are on it, because the betting syndicates took a position. Very rarely is it going to be the public money that comes in heavy on Fairfield, that comes in heavy on Ball State, that comes in heavy on those kind of matchups. They're looking for the high profile, top ranked teams, the ones that are on TV, those standalone games. When you see this kind of information, which is gold, which is why I logged in early just in case Art went first. You able to confirm sharp money opposite these sides. And if they're the biggest needs at Westgate, rest assured, they book a lot of betting syndicate action. That's one of the books out here that's not afraid to take a bet, and they're not going to take a small limit either. Like, that's one of the places that you really respect out here in Las Vegas. So I love the Westgate, and great information from Art. If you like any of the opposite sides of these, you know you're with the wise guys.
All right, you can see VR has the UFC shirt on. We're going to get to Kyle Anthony with UFC. But let's take Rob's question really quickly here. DK currently has Kansas City -8.5, Detroit -8.5, and Philadelphia -6, and of course, Buffalo +1.5. Any reason why I wouldn't tease all these games? Listen, the contrarian in me, VR, says, it just is so easy. Come on in, boys. The water's warm. Absolutely, Rob. I think it's a trap. But hey, guess what? Everybody did it last weekend, didn't they, VR, and got to cash that ticket.
Exactly. And listen, not Rob, no disrespect, not saying it's a bad bet, but bad bets win all the time, just like good bets lose all the time. And the reason I say that the 6-point teaser over 4 teams isn't a great bet, it's because I think if you're not getting upwards of 550 or 6.5 to 1, you're not really getting the best of it. There was a time we were actually moving 4-team 6-point teasers in the NFL. We stopped about 2 years ago because all the books sharpened up and they lowered their payback on those. So they're not really advantageous, meaning they're not putting you in a plus EV spot where you're making a plus EV bet where you could kick your feet up and say, you know what? I got the best of it, regardless of outcome. I can't control what those teams are going to go do, what the refs are going to do, or any of that stuff. But I know I placed a plus EV bet because I should be getting plus 450 and I'm getting plus 550, plus 600. That's not the case anymore when you're putting in these 4-team 6-point teasers. I would urge you to put them in 2 teams, in groups of 2, because you are Wonging, except for Philadelphia. If you could get KC, you could get Detroit, 6-point teasers at minus less than 130 or better, it's worth doing it. You could kick your feet up regardless of outcome and know you placed a good bet. Even Buffalo up to 7.5, but stick to 2-team teasers. With 3 teams, you got 3 different combinations. If with 4 teams, if you want to use Philadelphia, you have 6 different teaser combinations in 2 that you could tie up. I urge you to do it that way as opposed to tying them up all together. I hope if you did that it cashes for you, brother, because I don't have a dog in that fight as far as the teaser goes. But I'm just telling you to look to put yourself in the best position to make the most advantageous bets. Use 2-team teasers, 6 points, especially since you could go through those keys, 3s and 7s, and maybe let the Eagles go. Use them on the money line.
Yeah, VR, I considered maybe teasing Buffalo a little bit. So I have a Ravens futures ticket, 10-1 to win the Super Bowl. I'm happy. I like it. I did not expect them to be this short of a favorite. I guess I should have. Only in the divisional round of the playoffs. I guess I should have anticipated. The AFC is tougher than the NFC. But talk to me about how I should look at that. Do I just let it ride this week? Is it something I said, hey, you know what? You made a good bet. If it loses, oh well. Should I be looking at Buffalo in teasers, doing a couple of those open teasers to maybe at least have one leg cash and possibly win both, right? Buffalo could cover the teaser, and then also Ravens could still win the game and move forward.
Yeah, that's the position I find myself in, Kelly, on Sunday and Monday, where I have a future on Baltimore and a future on Ohio State, but 2 complete different scenarios. I thought Baltimore would get to that 3 as well, because Buffalo just chokes in these games. We know historically, and we know Baltimore steps up. And even power rating wise, if you take out home field advantage, Baltimore's good 2.5, 3 points better than Buffalo. So I was hoping to see the public come in on Baltimore as well, get them to 3, and then it became easy for me. I'm going to hedge a little bit and hope. I'm probably not going to hit a middle, but at least I got a decent hedge. Now I'm in the position where I either simply hedge because you ain't hitting the middle, taking the Buffalo side of, +1, +1.5. You got to tease it. Exactly what you said. Take the teaser, especially since you have the ability to do one leg, where you could put in one leg now and you could close it later. Here's why. The championship round's coming up. We know historically teaser is the strongest in the championship round. In fact, Kenny White had said multiple times that during teasers, during conference championship, books that were taking 50 dimes a week prior, he was urging them, don't take more than a nickel. Don't take more than a dime, because the true odds should be -150, -160, -170. in the championship round on a teaser. So if you could open some up one-legged that you could look to close next week, that's the move. That's what I'm doing with my Baltimore teaser because I'm a little greedy. I'm going to try to hit a middle there. Hopefully Baltimore wins between 1 and 7 points. And I have my live teaser as well because I didn't get it with Ohio State in their last game. So I think the gambling gods owe me a middle. So I'm going to do that exact thing and hope that Baltimore gets the job done. Just knowing that there is some sharps that like this Buffalo side scares me. I know the line doesn't reflect that, but rest assured, I do know sharp bettors that are ready to pounce on this Buffalo side, and that worries me. So I'm teasing it, baby, just like you.
Yeah, I think that's the right move, at least to make myself feel a little bit better about not getting really involved in the game. I'll go for a middle. VR is the best, you guys. We could sit here and do the show the rest of the hour, but we've got other guys to get to. If you're looking for more VR, we've got them on the Steam Room Sunday mornings. VR, let everybody know what they can find over in the Steam Room, where to find the Steam Room, and what else you've got up over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, anyone that jumps on board with me gets access to the Steam Room. Make sure you head on to WagerTalk.com, especially my page, because I'm throwing out free premium plays pretty much each and every day. I have 5% going today in the UFC. I have my UFC 311 card, finished number 1 in profit, over 100 units won last year, 14-4 on my last 18 UFC 5%. I'm very selective with those. I love this pick tonight. And NFL, so far 2025 low volume has been doing well, 67% in NFL since January 1st. And going to stay selective just like that. So head on over. We'll be in the Steam Room tomorrow, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern for a couple hours.
Yeah, we'll see you over here on Last Call as well, VR. Touch on some of those other NFL games and, of course, the national championship. Let's bring in Kyle Anthony. He's going to join us today, talk a little UFC 311. What's going on, Kyle?
I'm feeling good. First of all, I want to say I am glad you are on the XRP train. I'm glad you're on it. Come aboard. I mean, I have been in crypto since about 2016, and that is my biggest holding when it was like 20 cents. So I have been kind of deciding when to ladder out at a certain point here. But I always said to myself, when it gets back near the all-time high, which we're here now, is when I'll start to think about it. So this is where we are, but it's good we're talking about it. I'm glad.
Yeah, I mean, my dad and I have a cash out, right, for his amount. My mom and I have a different cash out, and then I'm just going to let it ride because I'm a gambler and I'm young and have more risk than they do, right? Like as you age, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's in anything else, you have a different mitigated risk. I'm going to just let it go and see if we can take this thing to $10, and then, just then, maybe I'll decide about cashing out. But like VR said, always take your crypto profits. I wrote it down because I, too, will just assume that it's just going one way and one way only. We know that's just not the case as far as markets go. Let's talk about this main event real quick, Kyle. I know you got a couple plays you want to go over. Whenever things like happen late, right? What was it? 2 days ago, they made an announcement. Oh, we've got a guy that's not ready for the fight, and they insert somebody else. Talk about that handicap and how you look at that. I know a lot of these guys stay in regular fighting shape. Mm-hmm. Some do, some don't. It's always difficult because it's like finding a fill-in at a last minute. Usually feels like those guys get their asses kicked.
Yeah, and the one thing here is it's a little different because if you've got a guy that, let's say, is already on the card and now you got a guy that isn't on the card and coming over and fighting, I think that can change. But in this situation here, you've got both guys that are prepared to fight, but different opponents. And to me, I always think that brings, especially a lot more variance. And yes, you've got Islam Makhachev, who, is ready to fight Arman Tsarukyan. I actually liked Tsarukyan as a little sprinkle there at plus 310. I thought there was going to be some value there, a close fight, but Islam had the opportunity to probably pull that out, but definitely much closer than the line indicated. But in this spot here, it's just, there's so much more variance going on. Islam was preparing for a completely different opponent. Same with Moicano, but I think that he can open up a little bit and find opportunities, to maybe actually find a victory. But plus 800 on Moicano, I'm I'm a little hesitant. If anything, I was looking on a side here. I would probably go Islam by knockout, which is, I think, around plus 180. And I think that's where it can go. Moicano is shown to have a little bit of a suspect chin. I did think he was actually going to go out there and beat Beneil Dariush, the fighter he was supposed to fight on the main card. But I think it's going to be an interesting fight. But again, betting wise on this one here, I think that it's maybe more of a stay away. You got Islam minus 1,400. If anything, like I said, maybe the KO is going to be worth it.
All right, we got a couple other fights we're going to break down here. But first, Kyle, plus 76 units last year in MMA. If you guys have not been following Kyle, you're doing it wrong. I know whenever Kyle and I are opposite, I know I am absolutely and utterly screwed. That is just how me betting the UFC works. All right, let's go. Nurmagomedov versus DiCesare. Did I say that right? Doubt it. I doubt it.
Duvalishvili, but hey, we'll take it. Here, this is the co-main event here. We've got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Merab Duvalishvili. Now, this is a pretty hyped fight here. This is an absolutely fantastic fight in the main card here. And this is a situation where you've got Umar. He is 18-0, has that Nurmagomedov last name, a lot of hype behind him, and recently goes out there, beats Corey Sandhagen. A great win for him overall, was able to get the takedowns, secure it, utilize that wrestling, but really, going back, and I talked about this on WagerTalk today, was, the rise for Umar definitely leaves some things to kind of, be desired a little bit. The guy's an absolute a phenomenal fighter, but who he's beat, he really hasn't been tested. Beating guys like Beksat, who came in on short notice, actually dropped Umar in the first round. Umar came back and got the victory. Hani Barcelos is an aged out guy. He's 2-4, running the UFC. Nate Maness, not good, cut from the organization. Umar beat him. And then even before that was Bryan Kelleher, who was on an 0-4 run and cut from the UFC also. Now he's about to face, Merab, current champion, the guy that probably has the best cardio in the UFC. And all he's done is beat former champions as of late. He beat, which was one we were against on there, Kelly, Sean O'Malley, Aldo, Peter Yan, Henry Cejudo. These are elite level fighters. You had Duvalishvili able to go out there and get those victories. I think the big thing here stylistically is it's going to have to be, how does Umar really deal with this adversity? He hasn't had to face it. He hasn't been pushed. I think the big part here is also that Umar will have a strength and physicality advantage. I think he can get takedowns. I think there's going to be a ton of scrambles here, and that's really where it's going to get interesting. Where early, I think both are going to have moments in that first, second round. But I think as this gets deeper, that's really where Merab can start to really wilt some of these guys, start to break them, take them to deep water here. And now you're looking at a spot at Umar. Umar was minus 330 not long ago. I actually gave out Merab at plus 260. He's now sitting around plus 220. But I do think that this is a spot where it's Merab. For Umar, it's up, in competition level. His first pay-per-view, first title fight, and he's a big favorite. I just think this, he definitely has the ability here on Umar, but I do think that Merab is the side at this plus money. I do like it. I think even anything over plus 200 is a good number on him.
Yeah, plus 200. You're speaking my language, especially in the UFC. We know it's sometimes tough to get those big underdogs to win outright, but hopefully we get a knockout here or something that makes it just a little bit easier on us. Kyle, before we get into your second fight, let everybody know what you've got up for this card over at WagerTalk.com.
Yeah, so have a 5% play up right now, 14-2 run on 5% plays last year. Again, we were number one in ROI in all sports, and that's a huge thing. We're beating market moves. We're finding ways to put our money in strong positions, and we continue to do that. So I have 4 plays up right now, do have some plus money in there. Probably going to add a 5th play when we get off here, but do have another play I want to add. So check it out, and I'm ready to keep this train rolling.
All right, let's keep this train rolling. Ritter versus Holland here. Now, I don't know anything about Ritter. Obviously, Kevin Holland, lots of popularity there. When you kind of have someone like me, who I would say is like a recreational UFC bettor, right? Like I like to go to events. When I lived in Vegas, I went all the time. And when you only dip your toe enough in the water, I feel like bettors want to go and back guys who they know. Right? They like this guy or they hate this guy, right? So they want to bet or for or against him. Talk about Ritter. Let me know a little bit about this guy because I know nothing.
So we've got Rainer DeRitter here. He's sitting around minus 125. You've got Kevin Holland at plus 105 right now. And this is a spot where you've got DeRitter. He is a 2-division, 1 FC champion outside the UFC. And he's a wrestler. He's going to push forward. He's going to look for takedowns. He's going to look for the top control, hunt for the submissions. And he has found success that way. Now, he came into the UFC, which was his most recent fight against Gerald Meerschaert. And this was a fight where, yes, DeRitter got the victory. It was big. He was able to find the submission in that third round. But I don't think in a victory you could look any worse. I thought he did not look good early. I mean, he is a massive guy for the division. He was able to go forward, but it was sloppy wrestling. He has really shit striking overall. His top control is not that good. And the big thing here is the reason why I think money has come in on Ritter, because Ritter opened up around plus 130. He's sitting now around the minus 125. And I think the whole reason is because Holland does not have the greatest takedown defense, and that obviously is a vulnerability. It's a path here for DeRitter to utilize the wrestling, look for those takedowns, and that can be his opportunity. But overall, the big thing here is his cardio is not good. His gas tank is not good. And we have seen it even outside the UFC. DeRitter has shown to really start to come down on explosiveness, and everything starts to tilt down really after that first round. And it's kind of interesting to see that the same thing happened against Gerald Meerschaert, where early it was looking pretty good, and they were just kind of rolling around on each other. And you have a 37-year-old Meerschaert who he went life and death with. Kevin Holland is good striker. He's got range. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. He is far more of a striker and a better striker. Now, early in this fight, if DeRitter does get him down, Holland's going to be in some trouble. There's no doubt about that. But if it continues to kind of get into that second round, I think Holland's footwork, we're not going to be in the small apex cage in Vegas. There's going to be room for Holland to utilize the footwork, utilize his range, and DeRitter extremely hittable. This is a spot where Holland can get the job done here. I wouldn't be surprised if there was the knockout, but I just am not high on DeRitter. His competition level is not that good outside the UFC. Yes, he's a 1 FC champion, 2 division, but the guys he has beaten are not that high level. So in general here, I got to go Kevin Holland here at the slight plus money number.
Awesome stuff. Kyle Anthony, our UFC expert here at WagerTalk.com. Anything you would like to leave our audience with?
No, I think we're all set here, and I'm just ready to go. We got a great card this weekend, and we're off next weekend. I hate to see it. We've been off for a couple of weeks already, and now we're back to a week off next week. But after that, there's like 10 straight UFC events. So if you're looking for the monthly package, have a deal up right now. So got a lot of things going on, and we're ready to cash tonight.
Awesome. Good luck this weekend, Kyle. I can't wait to cash some of those plus money dogs. Speaking of plus money dogs, we got Andrew McInnis. He's coming in hot after cashing some really great tickets in the NFL up there on that Wager Talk leaderboard. And that's how this show works. If you're on the leaderboard, you get to come talk about your prospective sport. Andrew, we only have 2 NFL games today, so we're going to take some questions. But if somebody does happen to have a question for tomorrow, you guys are welcome to drop it in the chat. And then, of course, Bryan Power is going to take us all the way to tip off with some college basketball. So keep the NFL questions now, drop the college basketball questions, and we'll get to those later. Welcome in, Andrew. The NFL has been treating you well, my friend.
I love that intro. Speaking of dogs, let's bring on Andrew. That fires me up. I'm all right. I'm feeling good. Look, Kelly, I've got a really, really good record in the NFL the past little while. I'm not going to say that this 70% run since November means I've been firing 10 plays a weekend. It's been very, very low volume. Good. But with that, I've found success. And that's the thing with me with NFL. I pick my spot every single week. And what better time to have a 5-0 prop weekend than wild card weekend? So very unique props, low-hanging fruit. I kind of avoided the big name players, and it led me to a lot of success. So I'm looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah, Andrew, let's talk about that. So Andy Lane comes on, bet on it. You do the prop market. My best friend Ariel's the prop queen. So I kind of just pick and choose whenever I want to talk to you guys and ask each other questions. But I haven't got to talk to you about it since over the summer. So talk to our audience about your method to your madness. You mentioned picking guys that are under the radar. I think that should be the number one thing. Look, if you're looking to bet on guys named Jared Goff or Lamar Jackson or Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley, you may cash a ticket. Like VR said, you may be the product of good luck. maybe the books haven't adjusted yet, but eventually you are paying a premium for some of these names. So kind of dive into that and kind of give some of your method to your madness and finding some of these prop winners.
So I'll start with this, Kelly. A lot of people like to say, this guy has hit this in 4 of his last 5, 6 of his last 7, whatever. And I do look at that stuff as well. We have to look at recent form and riding the hot hand. But one of the biggest things I like to look for in the prop market is opponent ranking, right? Where does this opponent rank in a certain category against wide receivers, against the run, against tight ends, against certain situations? And then you kind of look at the depth chart. You look at who you can isolate, how they've played against that particular weakness, and then you utilize that and you capitalize. I mean, last weekend, I'm watching the Rams game. My only play on the Rams game was Puka Nacua over a half a rushing yard. Could you imagine sweating out a bet the whole entire game? You want one guy to get one rushing attempt, but that's what I was looking at, was a player like that. So, with the prop market, I think just like everything and I know, Kelly, you speak a lot about the numbers, about things being baked in. And I'll tell you what, right now, looking at that Saquon Barkley number, and Dan will tell us as well about Philadelphia, they're going to run the ball a lot. But that number's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the whole world knows they want to give Saquon the ball as much as they possibly can. So when you look at that right now, you kind of have to ask yourself, is that the best way to attack Saquon? Is that the best way to attack this Eagles team right now? Because you're getting the worst number, waiting until the weekend to bet it. And obviously that's really baked into the number how high that rushing yard price is going to be. And, there's numbers that I look at where I see a guy that's had success. For example, Jaden Daniels for the Commanders, he has gone under on his rushing yards in back-to-back games. But in this particular situation, I think he's going to be absolutely scrambling for every opportunity he can. I think it's not going to be one of those type of opportunities where he goes over this number in, 2 or 3 opportunities. I think that he's going to leave the pocket a handful enough times to accumulate 56 rushing yards. And I know it sounds like a lot for him to get. They're going to have to pass the ball. But, with how crazy both these coaches are, with how often they go for it on 4th down, and the athleticism that he has, besides how thin he is, I'm worried about him taking hits. I think he goes over 55.5. So, people love riding trends, but you also want to be contrarian a little bit as well, Kelly.
Oh, I know about being contrarian, Andrew. That is some of my favorite things. Richard wants to know if you're looking at any team total overs or first halves. VR mentioned that he did see a sharp group. John Murray also mentioned as well. Chiefs -4.5. It's now -6. Look, could it be 7-0? Could it be 14-0? Could it be 14-7 at half? Absolutely. But I think we missed the boat there. Andrew, do you ever look at team totals or first halves in particular? Ride those trends in the NFL?
Yeah, I'm a big team totals guy across multiple sports. I just find it's a little bit easier to kind of isolate one team in particular. Look, we just spoke about the Commanders. I talked about liking that Jaden Daniels over. Overall, this is kind of my favorite team total would be taking a look at them over on their full game team total, over 23.5 with this Commanders team, with how high the total is. Look, I think this is going to be an absolute shootout. This is one of those ones, the total is as high as it is for a reason. And I'm not really worried about what their offense is going to do. I'm worried about what their defense is going to do. And this is going to be a game where Detroit, of course, obviously it's a playoff game, but they know how to keep the pedal on the metal. Dan Campbell will win by 60 if he can. So which means the Commanders are going to continuously have to respond. I'm not sure if they cover the spread. And in a particular game like this, I want to avoid the point spread. I think if you're out there watching and you want to bet a team total this weekend, the Commanders are probably the best bet to look at as far as team totals, because I don't know if you have a side on this game or not, Kelly, but for me, I don't really want to take the Commanders as far as how they hang around defensively, but I kind of want to take them because I think their offense can produce on this Lions team. So I'd look towards that. I know the question was about team total overs because who likes betting unders? But I think the team total under on the Houston Texans is a really good play today. People talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, what they've done over the years. We're seeing all these numbers floating around X today about, hey, this team never covers spreads, but they win games, and every single sports bettor has a list, on a notepad about how many games they just could have won or could have lost. The Falcons, if the guy had a different color cleat, there's all kinds of stuff people are saying about this Chiefs team. When it comes down to it, there's 2 things. Their defense is underrated, doesn't get talked about enough again this year because of the stars they have on offense. And number 2, time of possession. Both these teams are top 8, not top 10, top 8. I think it's 7 and 8 as far as time of possession, which means they're keeping their opponent off the field. And if Kansas City can have super dragged out long drives, this isn't the old Kansas City Chiefs. This isn't the Kansas City Chiefs team we saw 5 or 6 years ago that will score a touchdown on 3 plays. If they keep the Texans off the field, I think Texans team total under is a good way to go. And again, you're not sweating a big point spread. So you're hearing about these teasers and money line parlays, all this stuff. I think the best way to approach this game, besides, of course, buying my 5% play on the game, is taking a look at Houston team total under.
Talk about that 5% play over at WagerTalk.com. It is on the Texans and Kansas City Chiefs.
It is, yes. And like I said, 5-0 wildcard weekend with the props last weekend. Really good run. And this is the thing. I talked about it when you asked me how I look at props. I look at opponent ranking, how a certain team is going to match up. I do look at head-to-head matchups a lot more than I look at recent form. This player, and this isn't over, I think is going to have a really, really good day in this particular matchup here. Super excited about it. And again, we talk about low-hanging fruit. We're not talking about a big number here. We kind of have a pretty solid number here on a player that I think is kind of going to be a little sneaky today. And I don't want to get too cocky, Kelly, but I think we're going to hit this one early on. So, guys, join me or grab 3 days. Get the 4th day for free over at WagerTalk.com.
All right, guys, we have a few more minutes with Andrew before we bring in BP. If you have a question for him, drop it in the chat. Andrew, anything, let's see. Richard Lockhart back here wanting to know, what do you think about Stafford rushing yards under, Hurts rushing attempts over? So we mentioned kind of finding those under the radar type guys. Here's the reality. Matthew Stafford, as we all know, is a solid quarterback. I'm not ready to say he's elite. He's very close. Let's put it that way. He's in the top 10 in the NFL. But here's my kind of thought process. He's not going to take off on the run, yet the bookmakers know that. He may have to do a quarterback sneak. Probably not. I'm trying to think of any other ways that this could go over, or is Richard dead on? And this is just bet the under.
So, Kelly, I was just checking here because I didn't have the information on this one. Stafford has gone under a half a rushing yard in 16 of his last 20 games played. So he's like allergic to moving forward in the pocket. He is not going to do it at all costs. I think, he would rather throw the ball away or dump it off to somebody. So I wouldn't talk anybody off that at this point. The data suggests that he would go under here. Hurts 3 of his last 4 games over here with his rushing yards. Obviously, as a Green Bay Packers fan, I'm still bitter about last week and seeing that Jalen Hurts didn't even throw the ball very well and my Packers still got crushed. But I think that we're going to see a better version of Hurts. And when Hurts is at his best, obviously the passing game will be better, but he's going to run the ball. So I wouldn't talk anybody off the rushing attempts over. And, again, like I talked about, that Saquon number being so big for his attempts and his yards, getting 100 plus, I think people could be screwed a little bit. If they lose that Saquon over, Kelly, it's going to be because Hurts accumulates some rushing yards as well. Because realistically, if you're taking a guy over in the hundreds, as far as rushing yards, you pretty much want nobody else running the ball. If somebody else starts running the ball, especially the QB, it's just taking yards away from your big bet that you have on that one. So, yeah, I wouldn't talk anybody off that. But the only thing is yards versus attempts. And Andy, I don't know if Andy's told you about this, but it's a pretty funny story. Somebody that he knows was betting on Kirk Cousins, games the Falcons were going to win. He was taking under on rushing yards and over on attempts because of the kneeling. So, it was like a same game parlay plus money because it contradicted the shit out of itself. Taking a guy over on attempts and less on yards just because they get attempts based on the kneeling, right? So, if I'm taking Stafford, I would take the
I had Will Howard over rushing yards in the Cotton Bowl. He took off, had 18 yards. He had an 18-yard run. I thought, all right, we're gonna sit back. He got sacked a few times. He took a couple knees at the end, and guess what? That ended up being a loser, and I was not happy about that. I digress. Let's talk about another game that's very similar to the one you just mentioned with Hurts and Barkley. That is, of course, Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. Do you think that those two are going to cannibalize each other in the rushing game against the Bills?
I think so. I mean, look, again, I think it's a very same situation where if I'm right now and I haven't bet either of those players on rushing yards, if I'm looking to bet rushing yard on the Ravens, I'm looking at taking Lamar Jackson. I just don't like that number on Henry. To me, it's gotten too big. It's overinflated. If they end up passing the ball a ton, you're missing out on rushing yards. If they go to anybody else, you're missing out on the rushing yards. If Lamar ends up taking over a little bit and scrambling the way he does, and you know he's going to run the ball a ton himself, you kind of miss out there. So if there's one guy I'm going to choose, it's probably going to be Lamar. As far as Josh Allen's concerned, I think I'd actually go under on Josh Allen. I haven't. The thing is, when he's been leaving the pocket lately, it's been for like very minimal yards, Kelly. It's not like he is leaving the pocket to continue running and like kind of go for a huge run. It's kind of like if it's 3rd and short, he just gets the first down and then goes down. If it's 3rd and short for Lamar, he's trying to go for the end zone. So it's a little bit different for those two guys. I think I would go Josh Allen under as far as that team's concerned.
All right, we're running a little behind here. Shocker. I went a little long with VR, and that's what happens, even though there was no art. So I'm going to let you go, Andrew. I appreciate you coming on talking NFL. Andrew's got a 5% play up right now in the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Houston Texans up at WagerTalk.com, WT.buzz/AM. Andrew, anything you would like to leave our audience with?
Yeah, I just got a few plays. I'm just going to rattle off for people here, Kelly, before I leave.
That.
So Patrick Mahomes over 36.5 pass attempts. Mahomes over 24.5 rushing yards. Joe Mixon under 2.5 receptions. Hopkins over 31.5 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs over 3.5 receptions at plus 130. That's it for me. Hope you guys join me in the 5%. Kelly, good to see you as always.
Thanks, Andrew. At McInnis Picks is where you guys can find Andrew. And of course, you guys can always find him over on WagerTalk.com, host of Puck Time. He does a great job during the NHL season with our good friend Carmine Bianco. Let's bring in Bryan Power. We've got about 17 minutes until tip. This is my fault, BP.
Brian still hasn't logged in yet because his
no
internet's
BP. After I told him to log in. Where is Bryan Power? Wow.
No, I see him. They can hear me right now. I see him trying to log in, but he has Ohio internet, so I don't think he has the bandwidth to allow himself to log in.
I said log in at 11:30, and I thought, oh boy, he's going to kill me because we're 15 minutes behind. But I really want to talk some college basketball with him, so instead I will share some college basketball myself. Here's what we've got, boys and girls. A couple of things that I thought were really interesting. Tipping off here at noon, Kentucky money line, Art said, was very square. Looking like taking 2.5 with Alabama might be the play. And then he said Miami getting lots of love. Miami of Florida getting lots of love at home versus SMU. So keep in mind there. And a couple of sharp plays. One that VR agreed with is North Dakota -1. Penn +9 and the over in the Delaware game. Over 149.5 is what they played. Do we have a Bryan Power ready for us? If not, I'm gonna go make myself some lunch, breakfast, and get on my way. You know, guys, it isn't a live last call on Saturday or Sunday without some tech issues. I'll see where BP is. He may be, falling asleep in his office chair.
This one's his fault for once. This one's actually not my fault.
Is so actually his fault, not mine?
This is a rare, not Dan issue. So
love it. All right, guys. Got to get ready for tip-off. Head over to WagerTalk.com. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us every single Saturday and Sunday. We will be back tomorrow at noon Eastern. Talk about the other NFL games, some college basketball, and, of course, the national championship game. You guys are the best and are why we are here. Make sure you guys hit that like button. So hit the subscribe so you never miss another live show. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.